May 29, 1453. Constantinople. The ancient walls that have protected the city for over 1,000 years are finally breached. Ottoman cannons, massive bronze monsters designed by a Hungarian engineer, have pounded the fortifications for weeks. Now, in the pre-dawn darkness, Ottoman soldiers pour through the broken gate. Sultan Mehmed II, just 21 years old, has staked everything on the siege. By midday, the last Roman emperor, Constantine XI, lies dead fighting in the streets. The Byzantine Empire, heir to Rome, has fallen. The city that was the bridge between East and West, the jewel of Christendom, is now Istanbul, capital of an Islamic empire. Mehmed enters Hagia Sophia, the magnificent Christian cathedral that has stood for nearly a millennium, and orders it converted to a mosque. The Ottoman Empire has arrived as a world power, and it will dominate 3 continents for the next 4 centuries. This is the story of how a small Turkish principality on the edge of the Byzantine Empire grew into one of history's greatest empires, spanning from Hungary to Yemen, from Algeria to Persia. It's a story of brilliant military tactics and visionary leadership, of religious tolerance and brutal conquest, of cultural synthesis and administrative genius, and of an empire that would fundamentally shape the modern Middle East, Balkans, and Mediterranean world. The Ottoman story begins not with conquest but with displacement. In the 13th century, Mongol invasions were destroying civilizations across Asia. In 1243, the Mongols defeated the Seljuk Turks at the Battle of Kurs Dag in Anatolia. The Seljuk Sultanate, which had dominated the region, began fragmenting. Turkish warriors and their families fled westward, away from Mongol devastation, toward the frontiers of the declining Byzantine Empire. Among these migrants was a clan led by a warrior named Ertugrul, from the Kai tribe of Agaz Turks. According to legend, Ertugrul aided the Seljuks in battle and was granted lands in northwestern Anatolia as reward territory bordering the Byzantine Empire. This frontier region, called the Uk or March, was contested ground between Christian Byzantium and various Turkish principalities. It was lawless, violent, and full of opportunity for ambitious warriors. Ertugrul's son, Osman I, born around 1258, would give his name to a dynasty. Ottoman is a Western corruption of Osmanli, followers of Osman. Around 1299, as Seljuk authority collapsed, Osman declared independence, establishing what would become the Ottoman Beylik, one of many small Turkish principalities in Anatolia. What distinguished the Ottomans from other beyliks? Location. They controlled territory adjacent to Byzantine lands, offering endless opportunities for Ghazi raids, holy war against Christian infidels. Osman was a Ghazi, a warrior fighting for Islam's expansion, but he was also pragmatic. He recruited not just Turks but Greeks, Slavs, and others willing to fight. Conversion to Islam was encouraged but not always required. This inclusiveness, combined with military success, attracted followers. Osman's forces raided Byzantine territories, capturing towns and expanding territory. By his death around 1323-1326, he controlled a modest principality, but his son Orhan would transform it into a state. Orhan I, r. 1323-1362, was the Ottoman Empire's true founder. He captured Bursa in 1326, making it his capital. Bursa's conquest was significant. It was a substantial Byzantine city with wealth, infrastructure, and legitimacy. Orhan issued the first Ottoman coins, established a standing army, and created administrative structures. He married a Byzantine princess, Theodora, daughter of Emperor John VI Cantacuzene, demonstrating that the Ottomans were no longer mere raiders but a political power. Orhan's greatest innovation was the Janissaries, though they would fully develop under later sultans. Christian boys from conquered territories were taken as tribute, the Devshirme system, converted to Islam, and trained as elite soldiers and administrators. This created a loyal military force owing allegiance solely to the Sultan, not tribal or family loyalties. It was controversial but effective, producing some of the era's finest soldiers and administrators. In 1354, a crucial opportunity arose. A massive earthquake devastated Gallipoli on the European side of the Dardanelles. Orhan's son Suleiman Pasha seized the moment, occupying the fortress. The Ottomans now had a foothold in Europe. This bridgehead would prove irreversible. Byzantine pleas to European powers for help went largely unheeded. Western Christianity was divided by the Hundred Years' War and the Avignon Papacy Schism. Orhan's son Murad IR 1362-1389 expanded aggressively into the Balkans. He captured Adrianople Edirne in 1369, making it the capital, a deliberate statement that the empire's future lay in Europe, not Anatolia. Murad perfected the Janissary system and expanded Ottoman administration. He conquered much of Thrace, Macedonia, and Bulgaria, becoming sultan rather than merely bey, signaling imperial ambitions. Murad's conquests alarmed the Balkans' Christian states. In 1389, a coalition of Serbian, Bosnian, and Albanian forces confronted the Ottomans at Kosovo Palj, the Field of Blackbirds. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Both Murad and the Serbian Prince Lazar died, Murad assassinated by a Serbian knight who pretended to surrender. Despite Murad's death, the Ottomans won decisively. Ottoman victory at Kosovo opened the Balkans to further conquest and created a Serbian national myth of martyrdom that persists today. Murad's son Bayezid IR 1389-1402, called Yildirim, Thunderbolt for his speed, continued expansion. He conquered much of Anatolia, absorbing rival Turkish beyliks. He besieged Constantinople in 1394-1402, but the city's massive walls held. Bayezid controlled territory from the Danube to the Euphrates. The Ottomans were no longer a frontier principality, but a major power threatening both Christian Europe and the Islamic world. Then disaster struck. Timur Tamerlane, the Turco-Mongol conqueror who'd built a vast empire from Central Asia, turned his attention to Anatolia. Timur viewed Bayezid as a rival and resented his conquests of Turkish beyliks Timur considered vassals. In 1402, at the Battle of Ankara, Timur's forces crushed the Ottoman army. Bayezid was captured, reportedly kept in a cage, though this may be legend, and died in captivity. Timur restored the Turkish beyliks, fragmenting Bayezid's Anatolian conquests. The Ottoman Empire seemed finished. The period from 1402-1413, called the Ottoman Interregnum, saw Bayezid's sons fighting for the throne in a brutal civil war. The empire fractured, but maimed IR 1413-1421, the eventual victor, proved skilled at rebuilding. He reconsolidated Anatolian territories, restored administrative structures, and maintained Balkan conquests. The empire survived its greatest crisis, emerging perhaps stronger, having learned lessons about overextension and internal cohesion. Maime's son Murad II, R 1421-1451, faced immediate challenges. Byzantium, sensing weakness, supported Ottoman pretenders. Hungary launched crusades to drive the Ottomans from Europe. Murad defeated these threats, most decisively at Varna in 1444, where a crusader army was annihilated. Murad briefly abdicated in favor of his son Maimed in 1444, hoping to retire, but military crises forced his return. He crushed another crusader army at Kosovo in 1448. By his death in 1451, the empire was secure and powerful. Murad's son, Maimed IIR 1451-1481, was 19 when he became sultan. He was brilliant, ruthless, and obsessed with one goal: conquering Constantinople. The Byzantine Empire was a shadow, reduced to the city itself and a few scattered territories. But Constantinople's symbolic importance was immense. It was the last remnant of Rome, Christianity's greatest city, and controlled the crucial straits between Black Sea and Mediterranean. As long as Constantinople stood, it represented a Christian dagger pointed at Islam's heart. Previous Ottoman sultans had tried and failed to take Constantinople. The city's triple walls, built by Emperor Theodosius II in the 5th century, had repelled sieges for 1,000 years. The walls were 20 feet thick in places, with multiple layers. The Golden Horn, a deep harbor, was blocked by a massive chain preventing naval access. Taking Constantinople seemed impossible. But Mehmed had advantages his predecessors lacked. First, cannons. Gunpowder weapons were transforming warfare. A Hungarian engineer named Urban, rebuffed by the cash-strapped Byzantines, offered his services to Mehmed. Urban designed massive bronze cannons, the largest weighing 27 tons and firing stone balls weighing 600 pounds. These monsters could pound the ancient walls. They were unwieldy, taking hours to reload, but devastating. Second, Mehmed controlled both sides of the Bosphorus. He'd built Rumeli Hisari, a fortress on the European shore opposite the existing Anadolu Hisari on the Asian side, strangling Constantinople's supply lines. Third, Mehmed had a large, well-trained army of perhaps 80,000 men, plus a navy. Constantinople's defenders numbered perhaps 7,800, including Genoese and Venetian volunteers, commanded by Giovanni Giustiniani Longo. The siege began April 6, 1453. Mehmed's cannons pounded the walls daily. The largest cannon, the Basilica, fired just 7 times per day due to cooling requirements, but each shot shook the ground. The walls, designed for pre-gunpowder siege warfare, began crumbling. Defenders desperately repaired breaches at night using wooden palisades and rubble. Mehmed tried assaulting several times but was repelled with heavy losses. The Golden Horn remained blocked by the chain, preventing Ottoman ships from attacking the sea walls. Then Mehmed executed a brilliant stratagem. He built a wooden road, greased planks, over the hills behind Galata, the Genoese colony north of the city. On April 22, Ottoman soldiers hauled 70 ships overland, bypassing the chain. The defenders awoke to see Ottoman ships in the Golden Horn, an impossible sight that broke morale. The siege dragged on. Byzantines hoped for relief from Venice or the Pope, but none came. Western Christianity was divided and slow to respond. On May 29, Mehmed launched a final, all-out assault at dawn. Wave after wave attacked. The defenders fought heroically. Giustiniani was wounded and evacuated, demoralizing his troops. A small gate, the Kirkaporta, was found unlocked or broken. Ottoman soldiers poured through. Fighting raged in the streets. Emperor Constantine XI, stripping off his purple imperial regalia to die as a common soldier, disappeared into the battle. His body was never conclusively identified. By afternoon, Constantinople was Ottoman. Mehmed granted his soldiers 3 days of plunder, customary after a siege. Many civilians were enslaved. Churches were looted. But Mehmed then asserted control, stopping the violence and beginning reconstruction. He repopulated the city, bringing Muslims, Christians, and Jews from across the empire. He converted Hagia Sophia to a mosque, but allowed the Orthodox Patriarchate to function, nomming a new patriarch and guaranteeing Christian rights. Constantinople became Istanbul, from the Greek I's tin pollen, to the city, though officially it remained Constantinople until 1930. The conquest shocked Christendom and electrified the Islamic world. The last remnant of Rome had fallen. A city that had stood for 1,123 years was gone. Pope Nicholas V called for a crusade that never materialized. The conquest demonstrated Ottoman power and Mehmed's genius. He was now Mehmed the Conqueror, Fatih Sultan Mehmed. He would rule another 28 years, expanding the empire into Serbia, Bosnia, Albania, Wallachia, Crimea, and Anatolia. He was a Renaissance prince, speaking multiple languages, commissioning art and collecting books, who also commanded armies and administered a vast state. Under Bayezid II, R1481-1512, the empire consolidated. Bayezid focused on internal development, legal reforms, and cultural flowering. He welcomed Jews expelled from Spain in 1492, seeing them as valuable subjects who would strengthen the empire economically and culturally. Ottoman tolerance, relative to European standards, made the empire a refuge for persecuted minorities. Selim Ir 1512-1520, called the Grim, was a warrior sultan. In just 8 years, he doubled the empire's territory. He defeated the Safavid Persians at Chaldiran in 1514, though he couldn't hold Persian territory permanently. More significantly, he conquered the Mamluk Sultanate, Egypt and Syria, in 1516-1517. Egypt's conquest made the Ottomans protectors of Islam's holy cities, Mecca and Medina, and transferred the caliphate to Ottoman sultans. Selim now claimed leadership of the entire Sunni Muslim world. Selim's son, Suleiman Ir 1521-566, brought the empire to its zenith. In the West, he's called Suleiman the Magnificent. In Turkey, he's Kanuni, the lawgiver for his legal reforms. Suleiman was a military genius, an administrative reformer, and a cultural patron. He personally led 13 major campaigns, conquering Belgrade 1521, Rhodes 1522, much of Hungary, Iraq, Yemen, and parts of North Africa. The Siege of Vienna in 1529 marked the empire's furthest expansion into Europe. Suleiman besieged the Habsburg capital, but logistical difficulties, bad weather, and stout resistance forced withdrawal after 3 weeks. Vienna's successful defense halted Ottoman expansion into Central Europe, though Ottoman forces would try again in 1683. Suleiman's reign also saw the empire's cultural flowering. Istanbul became a center of art, architecture, and learning. The architect Mimar Sinan built magnificent mosques, including the Süleymaniye Mosque complex. Ottoman miniature painting, calligraphy, music, and poetry flourished. The empire was cosmopolitan. Muslims, Christians, Jews, Arabs, Turks, Greeks, Armenians, Slavs living under Ottoman rule in relative peace, governed by the millet system allowing religious communities autonomy. What explains the Ottomans' remarkable rise? Several factors. Military innovation. The Ottomans adopted gunpowder weapons early and effectively. Their Janissary Corps was disciplined and professional. They used artillery in siege warfare better than contemporaries. Their cavalry, including the feared Sipahi, was mobile and effective. Military success generated wealth, which funded more military success, a virtuous cycle. Administrative efficiency. The Ottoman system balanced centralization with local autonomy. The Devshirme system created a meritocratic elite. Talented individuals from humble backgrounds could rise to Grand Vizier. The Timur system granted land revenues to cavalry soldiers in exchange for military service, solving funding problems. Tax collection was systematic. Justice was relatively fair, enhancing legitimacy. Religious tolerance. The Ottomans were more tolerant than Christian Europe. Non-Muslims paid extra taxes but could practice their religions. Jews fled Christian persecution to Ottoman lands. Christians held important positions. This tolerance attracted talent and reduced rebellions. The millet system let religious communities govern themselves in personal matters, reducing administrative burdens. Strategic location. Controlling Anatolia and the Balkans placed the Ottomans at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa. They controlled crucial trade routes: the Black Sea, Eastern Mediterranean, Red Sea. Trade generated wealth that funded expansion. Timing. The Ottomans rose as the Byzantine, Mamluk, and Safavid powers weakened. They faced divided opposition. Christian Europe was fractured by the 100 Years' War, Reformation, and dynastic conflicts. When the Ottomans needed to consolidate, their enemies were distracted. Adaptability. The Ottomans synthesized Turkish, Persian, Arab, and Byzantine traditions. They adopted successful practices regardless of origin. This cultural flexibility made them effective rulers of diverse populations. Legitimacy. As warriors fighting for Islam against Christian powers, the Ottomans gained legitimacy as Ghazis. Conquering Constantinople and claiming the caliphate positioned them as Islam's defenders. This ideology motivated soldiers and subjects. The rise wasn't inevitable or smooth. The interregnum almost destroyed the empire. Setbacks occurred: failed Vienna sieges, naval defeat at Lepanto, 1571. But the Ottomans recovered from crises, adapted to challenges, and maintained expansion for 3 centuries. The empire's impact was profound. It ended the Byzantine Empire, fundamentally altering Eastern Christianity. It brought Islam permanently to the Balkans. It preserved and transmitted Greek and Roman knowledge. Ottoman scholars saved manuscripts that otherwise would have been lost. It facilitated cultural exchange between East and West. It created a multicultural, multi-religious state that, despite flaws, demonstrated coexistence was possible. The Ottoman legal system, particularly under Suleiman, was sophisticated. It balanced Sharia law with secular canon law. It protected property rights, regulated commerce, and provided relatively fair justice. European travelers often commented that Ottoman justice was more reliable than European systems. Ottoman women's status was complex. They were segregated and legally subordinate, but elite women wielded power. Roxolana, Suleiman's wife, influenced policy significantly. The Queen Mother, Valide Sultan, was often the empire's second most powerful person. Women could own property, conduct business, and divorce. This was different from but not necessarily worse than contemporary European norms. The Devshirme system remains controversial, taking Christian boys as tribute, converting them, and training them as soldiers and bureaucrats seems brutal. Yet many Devshirme recruits rose to positions impossible in Christian Europe's rigid class systems. Some grand viziers were from Devshirme backgrounds. Some families allegedly volunteered sons, seeing it as opportunity. Still, it was coerced assimilation, and romanticizing it ignores its violence. The empire's decline began after Suleiman, though it remained powerful for centuries. Succession crises, administrative decay, economic challenges, and European military advances eroded Ottoman strength. But the empire's rise, from Osman's small frontier principality around 1299 to Suleiman's vast dominion by 1566, was one of history's most spectacular. From the ashes of Mongol destruction and Byzantine decline, the Ottomans built an empire that ruled much of the known world. They controlled territory on 3 continents, governed tens of millions of diverse subjects, and created a sophisticated state blending Eastern and Western influences. Their rise showed that effective institutions, military innovation, strategic vision, and inclusive governance could build enduring power. When Mehmed the Conqueror entered Constantinople in 1453, he didn't just capture a city. He claimed the mantle of Rome, positioned himself as Islam's champion, and announced the Ottoman Empire as a world power. That moment, ending an empire founded by Constantine and beginning one founded by Osman, marked one of history's great transitions. The medieval world was ending. The early modern world was beginning, and the Ottomans would dominate it for centuries to come.